Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Kelly Green Hour as we are set with the off-season edition of this episode, and we are 3 days away from tampering period. Well, I guess less than 3 days away from the tampering period, 5 days away from the league year opening up, and we are going to see a flurry of moves come Monday afternoon. I'm your host, LG Harrell, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Connor Donald. Connor, we've had a little bit of a break, but we're back. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I mean, you had more of the break. I've been trying to keep that Kelly Green Hour Twitter X feed active and up to date with all the latest and greatest news for the Eagles. But I mean, it has been a nice little break. But I mean, it's good to be back, and it's going to be wild. I think this is going to be one of the. I mean, I feel like we say this every year, but I think this is going to be one of the wildest free agency and off-season periods because look at all the free agents. Like none of these teams found trade partners. They're just cutting ties with these guys. So bonus point, Howie, they don't count towards the compensatory picks. So Howie can go out and sign some of these guys and it doesn't matter. And it won't affect, the potential 2 third-rounders or multiple third, fourth rounders that we get next year. It's going to be fun and wild.
It is, and how you could potentially sit back and kind of weed through the guys, especially at, say, the edge position, because the Eagles are looking like there. But before we jump into it, as always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour, follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10, follow me on Twitter at LGHero54, and follow the Eagles Pinpool Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcast at Eagles Pinpool Network. I will say this, I am not trying to open my mouth too much. I just had surgery, had a tooth extracted. I don't want to, I'm already busting out some stitches as it is, so I don't want to go too far with it. So, but yeah, so a couple big moves early on for the Eagles. First, kind of came as a surprise, the Eagles giving Saquon Barkley an extension, 2 years, over $40 million. The numbers just came out. The cap hit over the next couple of years is low, obviously a bunch of dummy years at the end. And a lot of one of the things that the Eagles have done, Howie has done, is kind of put a lot of the dead cap or dummy years in 2029 and later. But I think there is a purpose for that because the media rights deal is coming up in 2028, 2029. And we already saw, a $25 million increase in the salary cap this year. By that, I mean, we could be $100 million up higher. And all these dead caps and money being pushed down the line, down, kicking the can down the road, might not matter for the Eagles or for anybody else if the money that the NFL could get from their media right contract comes into play, because the NFL, unless there's another pandemic, which who the hell knows, I mean, the NFL isn't going anywhere. It's going to be the king. It's going to be the king of all sports. The salary cap's going to continue to shoot up $25, $35, $45 million every year. So the whole kicking the can down the road, everybody says, yeah, you can only do it so much. I mean, if the salary cap's going to keep going up, it's not going to really matter for how he does, and he'll be able to keep this team competitive year in and year out.
Yeah, I mean, how he knows what he's doing, and he's got such a supportive manager. You look at the situation that the Cincinnati Bengals are in versus the Philadelphia Eagles, there's a reason that it is this way. Cincinnati just doesn't want to operate with putting all the money up front like Jeffrey Lurie's willing to do for Howie and to make Howie's, cap flexibility. That's why people say the cap doesn't exist, but in a theory it does, depending on your owner and how they want to operate with the money that's available. Even though they're all billionaires, even though it shouldn't matter to them where the money is along the road, they continue to make more money and constantly make more money. But you look at the mess of the Cincinnati Bengals, and you look at the mess of the Dallas Cowboys, and you look at the mess of the Cleveland Browns, and you have to love and respect Howie and Jeffrey Lurie that much more, that they're on the same wavelength and that they're on the same page for these situations. Because Lurie's willing to say, okay, I'll foot that bill for $30 million or whatever it is, $36 million for Saquon Barkley now, because I know it's going to pay dividends for us down the road. And I know that I could be hosting, or we could be hosting, another Super Bowl parade in the near future if I'm willing to do this. So I think that that's one thing that we have to respect. And I think that a lot more analysts are talking about this offseason and realizing about the Philadelphia Eagles is it's a mixture of Lurie and Roseman and the willingness for Lurie to foot all that money up front for the chance to compete and to continue to compete and be a competitive team in this league for as long as we have been. For the past like 20 years, we've been such a competitive team. Even when we have a down year, we bounce right back. But back to the Saquon, but if you want to make a statement for you.
I was just going to say, I mean, you're talking about the being competitive for the last 20 years. I mean, the Eagles have been the most stable franchise in the NFC for the last last quarter century, pretty much since 2000 when Andy Reid got in. Besides the Patriots and the Chiefs, like the Eagles are probably the next step to a potential dynasty, and the way that the Eagles build this up. And you're right, like it comes down to the owner. Mike Brown, I think, is the owner of the Cincinnati Bengals. Like Joe Burrow, your all-world quarterback, is begging you, imploring you, let's do what the Eagles do. Let's bring back Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and keep Trey Hendrickson and not have to get rid of everybody. And that yet they're like they franchise tag T. Higgins and they're going to allow Trey Hendrickson to leave. Like it's crazy that teams just don't prioritize keeping their younger players, keeping their skill players, and not putting. You're going to get out what you put in, right? So if you're going to not put money into a team, they're not going to win. But if you're going to be like Jeffrey Lurie and put a bunch of money into the team and pay these bonuses up front and not let that matter, because in the end it's going to come back to you, you're going to be a winning franchise, and that's what the Eagles are.
Yeah, and I mean, and then of course, then back to the situation with the Saquon Barkley contract. Essentially, his guarantees on the initial contract were going to, for the most part, run out next year. Howie Roseman said, "You did such a great job. You were such an amazing asset. I'm going to give you an additional year of guarantees." Essentially, is what happened, because it went from 2024, 2025 guaranteed to 2025, 2026 guaranteed now, and a little bit of 2027. But ultimately, they could use the post-June 1st cut in 2027 and save money on letting Saquon Barkley go then. Or if they want to pre-June 1st cut him, then it's only $3 million that they're paying out in 2027. So it's essentially a 2-year deal for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's your typical Howie structure, same as we're going to touch on in a minute, the Zach Baun deal. They're all essentially 2-year deals with a boatload of dummy money at the end that he can continue to add void years to and extend and restructure and continue to roll over. I mean, it did definitely come as a surprise that he went out there and he signed Saquon Barkley, made him the first $20 million per year running back. But I mean, in theory, he deserved it. And this is how he getting ahead of the curve. You look at James Cook. James Cook's watching it super closely because he said, "I want 15 million." And obviously now you see the Buffalo Bills are re-signing some guys, but there's kind of this idea that James Cook was like, "Oh, wow, that's crazy. What, 15 million? No chance." Well, now Howie Roseman single-handedly reset, just like the Raiders reset the edge market. Howie Roseman went out there and single-handedly reset the running back market, and he led it. He's leading the charge. He's like, "I'm not going to be the guy who pays the richest for well, he is a guy, but then he's like, I'm going to be the guy that resets the market. I'm going to be the one that runs this market." And he did it. But in theory,
he did it with Jalen Hurts too. He got Jalen Hurts that contract, and then everybody went, over him, Herbert and Lamar.
That was a massive offseason. That was, everyone was waiting for that first domino to fall. And Howie Roseman was the one who said, "I'm going to get out in front of everything and I'm going to pay my guy this." And that's just what Howie Roseman's so good at, reading the room, reading the situation, and understanding what's going on and trying to get ahead of it. Does he always get ahead of it? Of course not. No one's always going to be perfect in that situation, but he definitely is doing a really good job of getting ahead of it with the Saquon Barkley one. And of course, we're going to talk Zach Baun. Of course, the edge market probably isn't going the way he wanted, but it could bode for him later.
It actually might, with the number of names that are out there. Like, I mean, he could potentially just wait it out. There's still going to be a bunch of good names out there. Maybe a bunch of teams will take themselves out of a running for a Myles Garrett potentially, or a Trey Hendrickson, and he can go and offer something not as much as the team was looking for first, and then maybe get him for less than what they were looking for. San Diego 2019. Thank you for joining us, bud. We're glad to be back. You're here for the Zach Baun talk. That's all you wanted to see. Every other free agent signing is a bonus.
Good transition.
I do hope. So Zach Baun signed a 3-year, $51 million deal, $34 million guaranteed. So essentially 2 years guaranteed. I wonder if at the combine Howie kind of got a sense of what teams, what potential teams the Rams or whoever could have offered him or be willing to offer him. I thought it was kind of steep. Like, it is obviously a big. It's like a five. He was making $3.5 million last year. This is about 5 times as much as he was making, and this is a lot of money. Again, we're talking about a GM and a team that A, didn't prioritize running backs, and B, didn't prioritize off the ball linebackers, and they have a $20 million running back, and they gave $34 million guaranteed to a middle linebacker. So the one thing I was saying is, with Nakobe Dean not going to be there to start the season, you do want some type of continuity at that linebacker position. You didn't want 2 brand new linebackers. Could have been a potential that it was going to be Trotter and Burks, maybe, if Burks comes back, or somebody else there with Trotter, whether it be a rookie or a free agent. So you needed to get some stability there. And I do kind of wonder if this was Vic Fangio kind of going, hey, I think we need to bring him back. Obviously, he had a career year, 5th in the defensive player of the year voting. I hope it's not like, I hope he can continue to get better. I don't want this to be the ceiling for Zach Baun. I'm not saying it's the floor for Zach Baun, but I want to see him continue to progress. He had a hell of a year, obviously. Was all over the field for the Eagles. And obviously when we signed him last year, I know I was saying, okay, he's probably a special teams guy, or going to be a guy that you bring off the edge or bring in passing downs. But obviously I was wrong. And he did an outstanding job. That's needless to say. He did an outstanding job. So we'll see if Zach Baun can, continue the progression. He's going to be 28 or 29 going into this upcoming
28, I think.
But I do think the most important thing was the continuity because of the Nakobe Dean situation. And so it was a good signing to get him to come back, and it's a good start. You get Saquon, give him money. Now, before you jump in, when it comes to Saquon, do you think the extension was kind of more of a thank you for what you did for us last year? You're not paying. You're not really paying for the future. You're paying for what you did, and you did it on a light contract. So we're gonna kind of hook you up deal, or do you?
I can see where you're coming from, and I kind of do agree that I think this was a thank you for your service because of the what you put up with in New York and stuff, and because whereas you said I hope this isn't Zach Baun's ceiling, I almost feel we saw Saquon Barkley ceiling
2,000 yards. Like,
do you exactly? Do you think for back-to-back years this guy's going to be as healthy as he was?
He's not going to get 2,000 yards, but I can see him still getting, say, 1,500 yards.
Oh, absolutely. But that's my point. Like, I feel like we've seen our ceiling in the fact that I don't think he's going to go at. I mean, if he does, it's wild to go after Eric Dickerson's record for back-to-back seasons. We've yet to see. We've seen people compete with it, but we've never seen them go back-to-back seasons of actually the same guy going after Dickerson's record and actually getting close to that record, because it's just such a hard record to achieve. And you have to expect, maybe teams will start to play the Eagles differently, and maybe it'll force it away from Barkley a bit. But I mean, I can't even see that being possible. I just think we've probably they're paying for the ceiling out of respect for what Saquon Barkley did. Exactly what you said. You're not paying for this guy because he's going to be, that he's a focal point of your offense. So that you're paying him $20 million because you're gonna run this guy into the ground. You're basically giving this guy money to live off for the rest of his life, because he's probably not getting another contract once these first 2 years of this new extension elapse. Like, I don't see, like, that takes him to his age 30, 31 season. It definitely was, I think, out of just pure respect and knowing that he was such a huge part to why we came out the Super Bowl 59 champions.
Now, Zach Baun, go ahead.
Zach Baun. So Zach Baun, Zach Baun, it's very interesting because when I was trying to project the contract earlier in the offseason, I said, I don't see him as a top 5 linebacker. So I don't think he would make top 5 linebacker money, but I can see him being in the 6 through 10 slot. And I think I slotted him in at like making 13.5 mil a year, I think was where I was on Twitter somebody was talking in the comment section, and I put a comment out there that I think 32.5 million made sense. A little bit more than 13.5 million. Sorry. He definitely got to 17 million, and he's now the fourth highest paid linebacker. So he comes behind Roquan Smith, Fred Warner, and Tremaine Edmonds.
Tremaine Edmonds.
Yeah, Tremaine Edmonds. So it's rich. It's rich. But like you said, whereas I think we've seen a ceiling with Saquon Barkley, I definitely think there's room for, like, are we going to see him get to like almost 200 tackles again? I don't know about the tackle aspect, but I think there's so many more ways that he can continue to impact the game that maybe he didn't get a chance to impact the game as. And in this past season, and Vic Fangio has just kind of started to, he sees what he can do, and he's going to push him to do even more and be even better. I mean, we saw, like you said, you don't want that to be the ceiling, and you hope that he doesn't regress. We saw Andrew Van Ginkel. He was the Zach Baun before Zach Baun happened, and he went off to Minnesota, whole new defensive coordinator, and he did about the same thing. So hopefully Vic Fangio, with that continuity, can go and take it to the next step, whereas Andrew Van Ginkel got the big money and basically had a very similar season. Hopefully Vic Fangio sees some things that he can take to the next level. And just like you said, that's why he wanted him back and really pushed Howie to say, Howie, I know what you're hearing. I know what you're seeing with Baun, Williams, and Sweat, but I need Baun back. And I feel like that's definitely what happened. I feel like this was more than a Howie decision. Just like last offseason, some of the moves that were made defensively were more than a Howie decision. I think he really values Vic Fangio.
Yeah, and why wouldn't you? Again, they could have had him the year prior the year prior if Gannon didn't screw us over. So before we jump into kind of some of the players, other free agents that the Eagles have, and maybe players around the league that they could target, we didn't discuss the Kellen Moore moving to the Saints and Kevin Patullo becoming the offensive coordinator. I think that was more of a Nick Sirianni thing, and I'm surprised we haven't heard anything about a Sirianni contract extension yet. I'm sure that's going to come before the season starts because he has deserved quite a payday. He did say, I think, during the combine when he was being interviewed that, like, somebody did ask, like, did you do interviews, or was it Kevin Patullo all the way? And he said he did a bunch of interviews. Obviously, we didn't hear of who he interviewed or who got interviewed. So that's quite interesting that no names have come out, because usually that happens. But what are your thoughts on the Kevin Patullo becoming the new offensive coordinator? And we talked about continuity for the defense. This is a little bit of continuity for Hurts, but it's going to be another offensive coordinator again for the ninth time in the last 10 years or whatever it is.
I mean, I guess the good thing is Kevin Patullo's been there through if I'm not mistaken, it's all of the offensive coordinators that Jalen Hurts has had in the NFL. I think Patullo's been there since.
Well, he wasn't here he wasn't here when Doug was here, because that's when Jalen got.
Okay, drafted. So he came in right after. He's been
here ever since Sirianni's been here.
Yeah, so he's been there to see, three of the offensive coordinators, see what works with them. And based on what, Nick Sirianni has said, Kevin Patullo's been a very focal point of, the play calling, the game planning, and helping Jalen Hurts become who he is. So I don't think this is as much. Kevin Patullo's got 15 years experience. I don't see this as saying, like, some people like to comp it to the Brian Johnson thing. Brian Johnson was green. He was rookie from a full coaching standpoint. He was promoted in his second or third year in the NFL. This is different. Patullo's been around for 15 years. I think that I'm willing to give him more of a leash than Brian Johnson. And I think that, like I was saying, he's been there for three offensive coordinators. He sees what works, what makes Jalen tick, and what he knows and what doesn't work. And I think that he's going to be able to take advantage of that, being so ingrained into the system and Jalen Hurts over the past three seasons. I mean, Kellen Moore, I mean, I think we beat that horse to death leading up to the Super Bowl because we talked about it every week as if it was a damn sure thing, because it pretty much was, because nobody else wanted that job. So, I mean, good on him. I mean, congrats to him. Good on him. I mean, when you get a chance, there's only, like you said, LJ, when I was kind of skeptical of like, why wouldn't you want to run it back? Because you might end up being a one and done coach. Like you were saying, there's only 32 of these jobs in the NFL. You got to take advantage when you got the opportunity to get it. He's interviewed for what, 3 or 4 seasons in a row and not got the job. This is the finally the opportunity, and he wasn't going to let it past him. He's put together a decent coaching staff around him. I mean, it just sucks that it's the Saints and they're in cap hell for 2 more seasons, because there's not a whole lot that he's going to be able to truly do. And I hope the Saints give him time. And maybe that's just the respect that I have for him, because he was part of the reason that a Super Bowl is in Philadelphia. But I also hope, I always wish that every coach gets the proper time when they're making up for former coaches, former managers, and owners, just mistakes and errors. So we'll see what happens as far as Kellen Moore goes. But I think it's going to be a rough ride for him for at least the first 2 seasons there in New Orleans. But I'm confident, cautiously confident and optimistic with Kevin Petula.
Yeah, and it is tough for Moore to pass that up. I mean, Bobby Slowick was a big name last year, and he's now an offensive analyst or whatever with the
like
Dolphins.
A senior offensive assistant or something.
Yeah, he got fired by the Texans, and now he's with the Dolphins and trying to get his name.
And we saw, and I mean, I don't know if it's the same, but Eric Bieniemy, he was involved in head coaching interviews, and then he completely fell out of grace. Like, you got to take advantage when you can, because you never know when you might fall out of grace.
Yeah. So you definitely have to take advantage. San Diego says, I actually feel bad for Kellen Moore, even though it's a head coaching job. It's a really bad one. I also wonder, yeah, that's true. And then he goes, I also wonder if Howie saw the leadership factor in both Barkley and Baun and decided to get them taken care of first. By watching them mic'd up these past few weeks, you can see the leadership. Well, they are Barkley is the most important player, best player on offense, or if not the team. Baun, obviously, the most important player on defense. So you do want to get your guys taken care of. And in different situations, obviously, Baun didn't have a contract, was becoming a free agent. You didn't really have to do anything with Barkley. I think, again, it's more of a thank you for what you did for us last year and helping us win the Super Bowl. We're going to kind of give you this as a thank you.
Yeah, because you never see that with running backs. Like, you just see –
Unless Howie is reading the market, and like you mentioned, James Cook has a chance to get a big payday in a year or two. Will Derrick Henry get something from the Ravens? Who knows? Like, are we going to start seeing again? Like, are we starting to see the return of the running back? And usually, like, the Eagles are out ahead of it, in terms of the what is about to happen in the NFL, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Howie's more than willing to overshoot the market, knowing the importance of Saquon Barkley to this offense in all facets of it. So without Saquon Barkley, like, does his offense run or operate the same as it did this year? 100% not. You can say I guess not 100%, but not with 99% certainty, you can say that it wasn't going to run that way. And Barkley he's so selfless and just such a great person. And you just see so many running backs get run into the ground and teams just leave them for dead. And Saquon Barkley, they're like, we're gonna make sure you're good. We're gonna give you your guarantees run out next year. We're not just running you into the ground. We're gonna give you more guarantees and some more money. And we'll see come 2026.
You remember what he said, that like he wanted to be known as an Eagle. Was it Marshall Faulk? Was drafted by the Colts, ended up with the Rams, and he was known as a Ram. Like he knows everybody knows he was drafted by the Giants, spent so far the majority of his career with the Giants, but he wants to be known as an Eagle. So one thing I did want to say with the Kevin Petula hiring, there what's his name? AJ Brown was on a podcast, and it was talking about the offense and how like it's going to have to make drastic changes. And obviously Philadelphia Sports Radio ran with it, saying, "Oh, look, they have to make changes. They got to go away from being a running team to being a passing team." I didn't see it that way. I saw it as you can't come in doing the same stuff that you did before, because defenses, there's defensive coordinators in the league. They all get paid too. They're going to find a way to stop you. If you come back doing the exact same thing you did the year before, you're not going to be successful. So you have to change things up. When he says you have to make drastic changes, I don't really expect. I mean, they're still going to run the football. Like, you have the best offensive line in football. You're going to have the best running back in football. Why would you not still, use that as an offensive thing? But you're also going to go out there, and I think you're going to see better, maybe a more smooth passing. I don't know if that makes sense or is the right word, but the passing game, you're going to see it. You still have AJ Brown. You still have Devontae Smith. Who knows what you're going to have at tight end. But you're still going to be able to move the ball through the air. And if the Eagles can be unpredictable on offense, it's going to be tough for them to be stopped. Now, granted, the schedule is going to be ridiculous, which I can't wait to see that in a couple of months. But the Eagles are, I didn't take too much into what A.J. Brown when he said that there should be drastic changes in the offense. He just meant you can't do the same thing, because if you come out doing the same thing, teams are going to find a way to stop it easily.
100%. I couldn't agree more with you on that point. I just think that AJ Brown does not like the media. Let's face it. It's the truth. It's the reality. We know it is. And he loves to just be vague as can be. And then the media runs with it, because he doesn't want to sit there and talk to the media for an hour and be this guy who's like the face of the Eagles in front of the media. That's just not AJ Brown. So he's vague, he's short, even though this is a podcast, he's still vague, he's still short, he's still to the point. I find him very to the point, and when to the point in Philadelphia, everyone runs with it. They take advantage of this opportunity to read into it, read the tea leaves, and it's it's very sorry. I just got an update. The Seahawks are trading Geno Smith to the Raiders.
Seriously?
I just saw pop up on my phone. I had to make mention while we were on the air there. But yeah, so I mean, ultimately,
Pete Carroll. Sorry, I forgot Pete Carroll.
Yeah, Pete Carroll. I mean, here comes DK Metcalf next. So I mean, I feel like AJ Brown speaks that way, and like Darius Slay made the comments that Darius Slay made, and now the media's running with it and the fan base is running with it. Look, it's like, especially like I want to touch on what Darius Slay said too. If you're looking purely at Jalen Hurts and his skills, you can argue that no, he is not above those four guys that are constantly put ahead of him. But we are in a league where winning matters, where winning Super Bowls matters, winning games matters, getting to the playoffs and winning in the playoffs matters. And Jalen Hurts has been capable of doing that. So there is going to constantly be this divide between the media and some players on Jalen Hurts, specifically for the fact that, and it's the same thing that we kind of pounded on through the whole playoffs and through the back end of the season. There's constantly winning doesn't seem to matter as much to people as much as a skill set and an ability to scout a jersey or helmet number. It just doesn't seem to matter as much to some people, and they just like to look at the skill set that's there. To me, Jalen Hurts is a winner. Nick Sirianni is a winner. At this point, you are going to have the hardest time moving me from Sirianni is a top 5 coach in the league right now, and Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback in the league right now. And the reason is because they are winners. They know how to win. They didn't bring a Super Bowl to Philly the first time they made it, but they brought it the second time, and they brought it in an absolutely emphatic fashion. So read into these things all you want, but I don't feel like there's a reason just like you to overreact, or even what Darius Slay said, because he's just feeding into narratives that the media is creating and that the media wants to talk about. But you can argue from a skill set standpoint that no, he is not above those four guys. But you would be hard pressed to sit there and tell me that he isn't, because he's a winner and we've been winning with him.
Yeah, I still think it's crazy that people put Justin Herbert up ahead of him. Like, Justin Herbert hasn't done crap. Also, the compensation was a 2025 third-round pick for Geno Smith. So now the Seattle needs a quarterback, and a lot of apparently Sam Darnold could be that guy. But we'll see what happens over the next 48 hours or so. 72 hours as we get to the legal tampering period. So that is a blockbuster trade, the first one of this. That would be the first blockbuster trade. What other trade is made? Whatever. Obviously, DK Metcalf's out there, Trey Hendricks is out there, Myles Garrett's out there, a bunch of big names. Speaking of you mentioned Darius Slay. What are your thoughts before we jump into some of the free agents? Your thoughts on the Darius Slay, CJ thing? Like, I wanted Slay to come back, and I kind of still do. I don't know if he kind of shot himself in the foot with that, with what he was saying, because CJ is going to be here. I get CJ being upset when he's talking about when his name wasn't mentioned about being a leader. But if you think about it, when he was here in 22, we went to the Super Bowl. He wasn't here in 23. We lost in the wild card round. He's here in 24. We win the Super Bowl. Like, CJ is your unconventional leader. He is like that. He has the swag. We hear the Phillies talk about the vibes. You want to be the vibes guy. We can call CJ the vibes guy. I love CJ. I was so happy when he came back. I was disappointed when he left to go to Detroit. And the fact that he got upset that he wasn't mentioned about being a potential leader, I actually like that. Like, I want somebody that wants to be seen as a leader. So I don't think there's any ill will between CJ and Slay. And I think if Slay comes back, they'll be able to let things go and take care of business on the field, because Slay's got one more year left. But I have no issue with what the way CJ kind of responded back. Now, I'm pretty sure Big Dom got a hold of everybody, and that's why tweets were deleted. But what were your thoughts on that situation?
Listen, I agree with you. CJ is an unconventional leader. He brings hype. He brings an attitude. He brings a swagger. He brings all these things that were missing in the team in between that season. Like you were saying, that we made it to the Super Bowl, then we didn't make it to the Super Bowl. Then we made the Super Bowl. We won the Super Bowl. It's just like kind of going when you're hiring at an employer, and everybody's going to have a different idea and different concept of what's a leader. Are you meant for a role, or are you not meant for a role? This is the exact type of situation that's playing out here. You don't have to be. Darius Slay was a very different leader than CJ would be, and will be. And I have no issue with the way that CJ reacted. I mean, you hate to be called out in that situation when you sit there and you're like, wait, you guys brought me back because you were missing something with me, and we ended up winning the Super Bowl. Like, to me, I'm okay with the back and forth that happened. I don't understand in some regards why Darius Slay has to go out sometimes and say what he says. It's a similar situation to, Micah Parsons and the Dallas Cowboys, and like the media hates that Micah Parsons has a podcast, and are like, maybe you should back off of it a little bit. You can still have it when you retire or later on in your career. People are still going to listen to you. People are still going to tune in. But I mean, to me, I have no issue with what CJ said, or how he reacted. And I mean, we haven't touched on Bradbury and Slay, but I mean, I think that those were the right moves. Those were the best moves for post-June 1st cuts. There's a youth movement happening in our secondary, and that is no disrespect to either of them. James Bradbury was the ultimate player, the ultimate leader, this past season when he tore his Achilles and he couldn't play, and instead of walking away from the team, he stayed close to the team, and he helped Cooper DeJean.
And we didn't even know.
But he still helped Cooper DeJean. He still helped everyone in that secondary room. And then, of course, Darius Slay, we know that he was instrumental in the transition of Kenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean into the NFL, and how quickly they were able to grasp the NFL and just dive right into the NFL and be these core pieces to the secondary. So, I mean, to me, it's just a little spat between guys who just have different opinions on what a leader is and how a leader should act and be. That's purely all it is.
Yeah, and a lot of people call him that, CJ. They don't like CJ, and they want Sidney Brown to replace him. No, like CJ is a starter. If anything, Reed Blankenship is not a starting safety, and I'm still going to be of that ilk. That if the Eagles can get another safety to replace him, I'd be 1,000% fine with that, and let Blankenship be the third safety, but that's a different story.
I also think it's important to note we are in the weeds of the offseason. We're trying to get to that next exciting part. The combine is whatever. You scout people, but you still like to see what's going on with the NFL people and the NFL personalities. You're in that stretch of 5 weeks, 5.5 weeks, where you're going from the Super Bowl to free agency, and people are just looking for something to talk about. There's not a whole lot of news dropping. Some of these shows are not about scouting. They're not about talking about the combine for 2, 3, 4 hours. So they're just looking for things to talk about. Just like Colin Cowherd says, because AJ Brown is a diva, he should be traded. There's a lot of different personalities in Philadelphia. And this was what was said when everything went down with AJ Brown and when everyone was blowing up about how can you let this stuff happen on the sidelines when cameras are on you. There's just a lot of different personalities. They get their raw emotions out in the moment, and then they go behind closed doors and they talk about it. They get stuff off their chest, and they come out and they compete the next week as if nothing happened. We're just in such a weird phase of the offseason. I'm going to hate to see from after the first 2 weeks of after next week and the week after that, then you're a month to the draft. I'm going to hate to go through that too, because the same stuff is going to happen. Anybody has an opinion. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody wants to say something. It's all about not getting too into it. We know that we have a lot of personalities. AJ Brown, I don't find to be a diva. CJ, GJ, you paid for that personality. You wanted that personality back in the locker room because it was a positive for the team as a whole.
Yeah, and also the Eagles aren't trading AJ Brown. No. So Patriots fans and everybody, just stop it. They're not going to eat $31 whatever million it is in dead cap space to trade one of the top 5 receivers in the NFL. San Diego says, I love CJ too. I find it odd that LJ loves CJ but hates Gilly. They're the same guy. Maybe I don't know why, but I like CJ, can't stand Gilly. Whatever. I can't believe you remember that. I feel like we haven't been on in a month, and that's probably when I said it. All right. So let's jump to some of the guys on the Eagles are free agents. Now we can answer San Diego's question. Any thoughts on Dallas Goedert's future with the team? I've been really thinking about that situation lately. There has been a lot of talk that the Eagles could potentially be looking to trade Dallas Goedert or get rid of him. I mean, he's a really good player, but he has trouble staying on the field. And the Eagles had, Zach Ertz replacement in Dallas Goedert well before, now. And this is a tight end heavy-ish draft. There's some good tight ends. Obviously, Tyler Warner's up there. Is it the Michigan tight end? I forget what his name is up there.
Colston Love,
Mason Taylor. There are some tight ends in this draft, and after the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2017, that's when they took Dallas Goedert. So probably a good likely possibility that the Eagles are going to take a tight end in this draft. What are your thoughts on Dallas Goedert? Do you think he's back? He has 1 year left on his deal. Anything could happen.
I mean, not the only thing with Dallas Goedert, nothing's going to happen fast. They save no money by moving Dallas Goedert before June 1st. So I don't foresee this is projecting to the future. I don't see anything happening ahead of June 2nd, because then they just eating dead. They're saving a little bit of cap, but they're also they're not saving any cap. They're just eating all pure dead money and moving on from Dallas Goedert. I don't think that the Eagles franchise sees Dallas Goedert that way. I think that they're willing to respect him and play a bit of a longer game with him. Does Howie want to go out and pay the guy nearly $12 million next year? That's where the conversation starts. And that's why I think a conversation starts after the chaos of it. Does moving on from Goedert or not moving on from Goedert dictate if they're going to go towards the tight end market? Absolutely not. I definitely think they're still going to consider signing a tight end, or if they like a tight end in the draft, they're definitely going to draft a tight end. They're definitely bringing in some more competition, because there was one thing. There's a lot of people out there who love Grant Calcaterra. I love Grant Calcaterra. He's a great receiving tight end. If there was one thing that we noticed when Dallas Goedert was not in the lineup, it's not that we missed the pass catching, it's that we missed the blocker, Dallas Goedert, because Grant Calcaterra was an absolute liability. EJ Jenkins on roster, definitely not going to be any better from a blocking standpoint. They need to find more of an all-around tight end who fits the Dallas Goedert mold again. It was funny. I was looking at Lance Zierlein's NFL, like he has his on NFL.com, his sheets about each prospect. Mason Taylor's comp by Lance Zierlein is Dallas Goedert, which is funny,
What are your thoughts
ironically.
on Michael Mayer from the Raiders? They're given
I mean,
probably he could be traded since they have Brock Bowers.
and I'd be open to that too. Like I would be 100% open to that because Michael Mayer, like you have to think like he was huge at Notre Dame. He was so good. Like he ended up being taken with such significant draft capital, and then the Oakland Vegas Raiders just couldn't have passed up on the opportunity for Brock Bowers, and that how much Brock Bowers was going to improve their offense. The thing with Michael Mayer is he's not sexy. He's very basic at what he does. He's not going to make necessarily these flash plays like a Bowers or anything, which is the thing. Like I'm okay with that though. We got AJ Brown, we got Saquon Barkley, we got Jalen Hurts, we got Devontae Smith. We don't need this flashy and sexy tight end that needs to stand above all and be all of this offense. So, I mean, I definitely think that it's going to be a long game with Dallas Goedert. Nothing makes sense to happen before June, before the summer. I think that they're going to wait it out as the markets, as everything settles in, teams go into their camps and start to see what they got. Maybe teams will start calling once the Eagles have made a move or two at tight end. They might start calling on Dallas Goedert and see gauging the asking price. I just don't think like people think he's going to be thrown in with the Myles Garrett deal and stuff. Nothing makes sense from a Howie standpoint to happen before June. So does it make sense to move on from Dallas Goedert? I mean, he's missed 33% of games over the last 3 years. So like you said, he struggles mightily to stay healthy. I love Dallas Goedert.
He is really good.
He is really good. I just think that some team will pay him the money he's owed, whereas Howie will really push to he won't go beyond the 11.8. Like if there's a restructure or more likely an extension, it's going to be, okay, Dallas, let's look at, you haven't been able to stay on the field. You're very productive when you're on the field, but this is what I need from you. And I just don't know if Dallas Goedert would be open to that, but I mean, we'll see. But I think it is best that they move on from Dallas Goedert if they get the right pieces in place leading up to June when they can make a sensible move with Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. All right, so we brought back, re-signed Zach Baun. The three other big ones, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, Mekhi Becton. I'm fine with Josh Sweat going. Like, I get it. He would have been the Super Bowl MVP if Jalen Hurts didn't hit Devontae Smith, but I'm fine with, I think Sweat, he took a pay cut last year. He led the team with 8 sacks, but I think Nolan Smith is, coming on. The only issue with the edge room is it's light because Brandon Graham's probably going to retire. He retore his triceps in the Super Bowl. It's crazy. Josh Sweat's gone. You think Bryce Huff will probably be traded, maybe, potentially. We'll see. So they have Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt, and that's kind of it right now. I'm a big Williams fan, but he's going to get a big payday, and it's going to be interesting to see how he plays without being next to a guy like Jalen Carter. So I think him playing next to Jalen Carter has really helped his game. And then Mekhi Becton, he wants to come back. Obviously, the price is going to be a factor. He played really well at right guard, but he could also potentially be the future at right tackle. You never know. Lane Johnson's got a couple more years left. Becton's 25, and if Jeff Stoutland's going to be hanging around for a while, I think. Well, I know he struggled with the Jets at right tackle, but I think with a coach like Jeff Stoutland in the system, he could be probably be a really good right tackle. So personally, if I had to rank those three, I'm going Williams, Becton, Sweat, and Sweat can go for all I care. But my top two would be Williams and Becton. Your thoughts?
I think my next priority signing is Mekhi Becton. Like you said, I think that he's like a 2 birds, 1 stone type of signing that if you can lock him down for 3 or 4 years, we wait. I think it was last offseason, Lane Johnson said or the season before that Lane Johnson said he only has 2 seasons left. So we're coming up on the end of that time with Lane Johnson. I think he was really healthy this season. He's good to go. But I feel like with Lane Johnson, it's that next injury. You never know when that next injury comes, how he's going to feel, or if he's going to say, I think this is it for me. I want to be able to, grow up with my kids. I want to be able to walk with my kids, play with my kids, lift my kids. You hear about those things from some of these guys that they want to retire and be able to, get up off the ground and not just be stuck there because of football injuries and stuff. So I definitely think Mekhi Becton for me is priority. I think Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, both of their numbers from an average year perspective start with a 2. So it's who are you most comfortable starting with a 2 and bringing back? Milton Williams, like you said, I think he benefited greatly from not just Jalen Carter, but the edges beside him, the defense as a whole. Milton Williams has yet to play a year where he had played over 50% of snaps. I think this year was his most and was 48% of snaps. So my concern is twofold with Milton Williams. No Jalen Carter beside you and not the edge room that you had with Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith. And then in previous years, like I went back in an article that I wrote, he's always had Javon Hargrave, Hassan Reddick. He's always had somebody that Jalen Carter now. He's always had some pieces around him that are so good, and he hasn't ever been able to get over playing 50% of snaps. You're going to pay this guy, start him with a 2 yearly and expect him to play more and expect him to potentially play beside lesser players. So it's twofold with him. Can he do it without the top dogs beside him that like we've seen him have over the last 3 seasons? Also, what about when he plays more snaps? Is he going to be as effective? Because to be honest, he hasn't been overly effective from a stat sheet standpoint, but I know that he has, commanded some attention and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how teams feel and think about that. But I mean, the market was kind of set. Osa Odigizua there got $20 million per year. So it'll be interesting to see, where that sets that market, especially now Jonathan Allen's out. There's a couple other defensive tackles who are now out there on the free market. So I think for me, I'm willing to let them both go. But if I was bringing someone back, I think I'd rather bring Josh Sweat back, but I'd also really be comfortable. Like Josh Sweat to me has poured the most cold water on people saying he's leaving. When there was a rumor that came out that said it's likely that he's leaving, he literally put he literally retweeted and had some weird emojis basically saying, wait, what?
I also think like Milton Williams is 24, 25 and Sweat's 29. Like,
yeah,
I think again, Milton Williams kind of fits what Howie looks for: a young, somebody that you've had in your building at a position that you like to build up at, and that's inside on the defensive line. A couple other players, kind of Isaiah Rodgers. I would like to see him come back, especially if you're not going to bring Slay back and let Rodgers and Ringo battle it out for the corner spot across from Mitchell, because I don't want to take DeJean from the slot. I know DeJean can play on the outside, but him and the slot is an important position on the defense, and I think you want to leave him there.
Well, you saw with that Derrick Henry hit, like you are not necessarily just
Avonte Maddox isn't making that play.
No, exactly. You're not just tasked with going up against a wide receiver. Sometimes it's a tight end. Sometimes it's a running back. Sometimes you got to make a big hit or a big play, and you got to make that stop. And we can trust that. Speaking of Avonte Maddox, he's definitely one that can go. Would it surprise me if Maddox, after the period and he doesn't have a market again, comes back to Philadelphia? Absolutely, it would not surprise me. But heading towards through the free agent period, through the draft period, I don't see him signing with the Eagles.
Running back position.
Isaiah Rodgers, definitely I want back as well.
Running back position, Kenny Gainwell is a free agent. We know Nick Sirianni loves him, but I think that Shipley could back up. Barkley and the Eagles could get somebody else or draft somebody. I would not be mad if Gainwell didn't come back, but that's me personally.
No, I agree. I have him as a go as well. I see some people projecting his next contract at $2, $3, $4 million a year. If you have to pay Kenny Gainwell anything more than the minimum, he's gone. There's no way. You have to remember Kenny Gainwell played, I think, what was it last season? He played Nobody played more than like 15% of snaps except Saquon Barkley. These guys are not going to play more snaps unless Saquon Barkley is
Well,
seriously
I
injured.
think that
And
I do think that the backup running back will play more this year. They're not we think about it. Saquon the entire year touched the ball over 500 times. So the backup quarterback or running back will play a little bit more. I think it won't. It'll be like maybe 20-25%. Just to spare Barkley to keep him healthy for playoffs. So I do think the backup running back is important this upcoming year, especially after how many times Saquon touched the ball this year.
I agree, and I think that it's important, but like how much more are they going to touch a ball? And then we've seen Kenny Gainwell. It's nothing special there. Go and draft somebody. Give Will Shipley more of a chance. Draft a thumper type of back that'll give you that like short yardage work that you need. But I definitely don't think that Kenny Gainwell needs to be back. Should be back. I think it's just not worth their money financially because that contract's almost going to be fully guaranteed. Because it's going to be 2 or 3, maybe 4 million at the max dollars that you're going to spend on this. So, but I agree with you. I'd like to see Will Shipley get more of a go. I know that for the most part, when we did see him get a chance, it was with the backups. It was in blowout situations. I'd like to see him get behind that offensive line, see what he can bring to the game, and he brings a really nice element from the pass catching standpoint. So,
and if he can pass protect too, that's important. So, whoever the backup running back is going to have to do that. We know Saquon is very good at that. San Diego says you spoke of Brandon Graham and his injury. How crazy is it for him and Nolan Smith tearing triceps in the same game? I've never heard of the injury until 2024, but now I've seen 2 in one game. It's crazy. Yeah, that is insane. And then you saw at the parade, like Nolan Smith didn't seem like he was hurt. He was going crazy. He had about 9 or 10 beers in him. He went ham in the parade, and then bring Isaiah back for sure. In my opinion, I do think that's what they're going to do. He wants to be back.
I honestly think that, like, I know that people are talking about don't rule Darius Slay out. Obviously, I'm not ruling Darius Slay out. Isaiah Rodgers will come back at a cheaper price than Darius Slay's cheaper price. So I think Isaiah coming back, and Isaiah Rodgers wasn't bad. Like, did he have his moments? Of course, but we are now looking to plug in our CB2, 3 in theory. And that's just the opposite outside of Kenyon Mitchell. We're no longer looking to fill a CB1 role. So you don't have to be the epitome peak at the position. So,
all right. So legal tampering period starts Monday. The new league year officially opens up. Was it 4:00 on Wednesday?
Yep.
What's one move that you think, or you want the Eagles to make and should make, or you think? Let's say what's one move you think that they will make? Whether it's Monday during legal tampering, Wednesday, whatever it is, what's the move that they make?
I think Howie's going to sign one of these recently released players. I don't think he's going to mess with the opportunity to get the compensatory picks. And now, like, he's seeing just riches upon riches being released. And like, you look at what some of these teams were asking, they wanted a second or they wanted a third. They couldn't get any team to buy, and they just cut ties with these guys. I think this is a perfect scenario for Howie Roseman because he's sitting there and he's like, why do I need to go and pay massive dollars for these guys when we're coming off a Super Bowl, we're losing some pieces, but I can plug in a name that I like, Harold Landry. That'll be the name I look for. Harold Landry to the Philadelphia Eagles. Howie Roseman makes a deal. Why not? Why go for Josh Sweat at 20+ million when you can get Harold Landry at between 15 and 20 million, maybe less, depending on how the negotiations go. And he can plug and play. And he's had more sacks over the last 2 years than Josh Sweat's had over the last 2 years. He's had more sacks he had more sacks last year than Josh Sweat had last year. Like, that's just like the type of play. This is the riches that Howie Roseman. This is the best case scenario Howie Roseman could have ever asked for. Is all these people just getting cut before the free agent period, and he's just like, okay, see you Milton, I'll take your comp pick. See you Sweat, I'll take that comp pick. And the only one I really want to see back of all that is Mekhi Becton. So, but the move, Harold Landry to the Philadelphia Eagles.
I was going to say that, so I won't say it. A guy I would really like, this isn't my pick, but I would love Jonathan Allen. He is 30, though. Maybe you can get him for a 2-year deal. And imagine him there next to Carter. Man, That would be great. I'm going to go.
And then there's like Javon Hargrave too, the potential
Yeah.
reunion there. I know he's coming off a major injury though, but
I'm going to go Azeez Ojulari from the Giants. He's like 24, 25. Kind of fits what Howie looks for, a young edge rusher, a guy that can get after the quarterback. You put him with the young studs on this defensive line. So I think that he's going to try to go for somebody young. I think regardless, it's going to be a defensive lineman. And I'm going to go Azeez Ojulari.
San Diego 2019. Landry's a stud and should get more talk. Some sites are bringing up interest in Joey Bosa to the Eagles. I would hate that. If we're taking a Charger,
I want Khalil Mack.
I want Khalil Mack. I was going to say same thing because you saw Khalil Mack played a lot less snaps. He doesn't have to play a lot, and he's still making a lot of plays. He's still putting up a lot of stats. Khalil Mack is like the ultimate depth edge piece that comes out and plays 40 to 50% of the time.
And he's played for Fangio.
Going to give you almost 10 sacks, I bet.
And he has played for Fangio. So, again, I do think that the first quote-unquote big move is going to be a defensive lineman. Could be wrong. You never know. But that's what I think is going to happen, whether it's Monday at noon, legal tampering can start at noon, but there's signings announced at like 12 o'clock 0 seconds 0.05 or whatever it is.
Should we make a prediction right now about what player from our free agents the Chicago Bears are going to sign within minutes of legal tampering?
Well, that would be Milton Williams or Josh Sweat probably.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen, and then we can sit there and we can be like, "This is bullshit. This is 3 years in a row." They're clearly
TJ Edwards, and then it was DeAndre Swift. So
exactly, and within minutes, it was the first official announcement or legal tampering sign in the last 2 seasons.
All right. So final question: do the Eagles trade for whether it's Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson? Somebody like that? Do they make a trade for a big time defensive end, or you're going to stick with they'll just sign one of these guys, even if it's how he just lets it play out and lets teams, sign the big guys first, and then he gets the guy he wants in the end?
I say no, they're not going to trade. I mean, I don't know where this Myles Garrett situation is going to go, but it's ugly and it's bad. And Garrett's already at the point where he's like, I'll sit out time and until you. I mean, the owner won't even talk to him until he waives the fact.
The only thing is Andrew Berry and Howie Roseman do have a relationship, so like
they do.
Maybe Howie could eventually use that to his advantage, and if you get into May, June, July. There's no, and you can call him up, be like, all right, Andrew, what do you want? Like, I'll give you, we ain't talking 2 firsts here, but maybe a first and third or something like that. What are you thinking? So that I can see that happen.
I just think like the best case scenario is emerging with every day and more of these edge and linemen getting just cut from their teams, and they don't count against the compensatory formula now. There's bigger names bigger fish that people are looking at, and Howie's just going to wait. This is a perfect scenario for Howie to just wait and say, there's a guy, and he's just going to pick up these guys, especially because he's got one thing working for him too. Hey, we just won the Super Bowl. Why don't you come over here? We're running it back for the most part.
And the way they treated Zach Baun, giving him some money, the way they treated Saquon, like, players know even if you come here on a 1-year deal and you perform, they're going to look out for you.
And what if leading up, Mekhi Becton gets a deal? Then it's all the more like, look at how these guys treat them. I can go, I can prove myself, and they're going to give me money. They're going to keep me around. Like Harold Landry, I think is only like 28 years old or something, 27 years old. Like pretty sure he's younger than Josh Sweat. So like you still have an opportunity with some of these guys. These are the perfect guys. These are the Howie Roseman guys in free agency. I just don't see. I think the situation with Cincinnati and Cleveland is so ugly right now. And I think Howie will watch it. Of course, he's going to watch. He's going to stand back. And if push comes to shove and he gets the opportunity, he's just not going to – if some players fall into his lap, he's going to take advantage. He's not going to wait for the Garrett situation to work itself out or Hendrickson situation to work itself out. I think he's still going to go to business and he'll make the finances work if the right situation comes for Garrett or Hendrickson where he can make a deal.
Yep. San Diego says it's so sad that the Browns don't really try to win, but they want to hold Garrett hostage. He has a crappy quarterback that they're just never going to get on. He's not going to play this year, most likely. They restructured it again. That contract is ridiculous.
It's full. So the thing is, that's fully guaranteed. So all they do when they restructure is add a void year and send all that money down the void. Like, it's crazy. It's a fully guaranteed contract. Just sit on it, let the years lapse, and just eat it, because that's what's happening. Face it.
Yeah. And I do think the Browns, if they are going to trade Garrett, they don't want to trade him in the AFC. They want to trade him out of conference, and that's where the Eagles, hopefully, especially with the relationship, the Eagles will have the upper hand. All right, we are less than a week away from free agency kicking off. We will probably be back next week. Hopefully, there's moves to talk about. Obviously, if there's nothing really to talk about, then we're not going to force things on you. But I do think Howie's going to, create more salary cap, probably, whether it's extending, Cam Jurgens and restructuring a contract here, restructuring, Lane Johnson's contract or whatever it is. But the Eagles have like $26-ish million right now. And I do think by the time free agency opens up, they'll probably be in the 30s.
Because the structure of the Zach Baun contract hasn't come out. So we don't know exactly what that is. But I mean, we can assume we're probably going to be right around the 20 mark, I would imagine. So
I think it'll be more just with restructurings and extensions.
Well, I meant just with the Zach Baun contract in play. But we know that Howie normally doesn't go into the free agent period without about $30 million to play with. So definitely agree with you. There's some restructures to come, or some extensions to come.
Thank you all for tuning in to this edition of the Kelly Green Hour. We will be back hopefully next week. Hopefully the Eagles do something. Talk about the new Philadelphia Eagle players and some of the players that maybe they potentially bring back. As always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJRL54. And follow the Eagles Pin Pull Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, or wherever you get your podcast at Eagles Pin Pull Network. Thank you all for tuning in. We will see you next time here on the Kelly Green Hour.